Do you ever feel like your relationship with God is distant? Like you're just going through the motions without truly feeling His presence? You're not alone. Many of us, even those who have been walking with God for years, can sometimes feel disconnected. Life gets busy, distractions pull us in every direction, and doubts start to creep in. But here's the truth. No matter how far you may feel from God, there's always a way back. Strengthening your relationship with Him is not only possible, it's essential for living a life of peace, purpose, and joy. We all know that a healthy relationship takes work. Whether it's with a spouse, a friend, or a family member, relationships don't grow unless we invest time and energy into them. The same goes for your relationship with God. Just as we need to spend quality time with the people we care about, we also need to prioritize our time with the Lord. But how do you do that? How do you go from feeling distant or indifferent to feeling deeply connected to the Creator of the universe? How can you build a relationship that isn't just based on routine, but one that is alive, dynamic, and life-changing? In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 powerful steps that will transform your relationship with God. These steps aren't just theoretical ideas or nice-sounding concepts. They are practical, biblical principles that can be applied to your daily life, no matter where you are on your spiritual journey. These steps will help you move from feeling distant, disconnected, or complacent to a place of deep intimacy with God. You'll discover how to experience His presence in a real way, trust His plans even when life doesn't make sense, and live out your faith in a way that makes a difference, both in your life and in the lives of others. If you're willing to take these steps, you'll find that your relationship with God will grow stronger, your faith will deepen, and your life will be marked by peace and purpose. These steps aren't about striving harder or trying to earn God's love. They're about embracing the incredible truth that He already loves you and that He wants to walk alongside you every single day. So whether you've been walking with God for decades or you're just beginning to explore who He is, I want to invite you to take this journey with me. Together, we're going to explore practical ways to build a stronger, more meaningful relationship with the God who created you, loves you, and has incredible plans for your life. Let's get started. The first step to deepening your relationship with God is something that sounds so simple, yet it's one of the most powerful things you can do. Prioritize personal time with God. It might seem obvious, but how often do we actually prioritize time with Him? How many times do we get caught up in the busyness of life and end up pushing God to the side, just hoping we'll catch up with Him when we have a moment to spare? The truth is, if you want a stronger relationship with God, you have to set aside dedicated time to be with Him. You have to carve out space in your day, in your week, in your life, where it's just you and God. This is not a luxury. It's a necessity. In the same way that you make time for the important people in your life, you have to make time for the most important relationship you'll ever have. Think about it. You wouldn't expect to have a close, thriving relationship with anyone if you only spent a few minutes with them once a week, or only when it was convenient. You'd never get to know them, and they'd never get to know you. The same applies to God. The more time you spend with Him, the more you'll learn about who He is, how much He loves you, and the plans He has for your life. This personal time with God doesn't need to be complicated or fancy. It's about intentionally setting aside moments throughout your day to connect with Him. You don't have to be a theologian to understand that God loves you and wants to speak to you. He wants to be involved in every aspect of your life, from the big decisions to the little moments. Whether it's through reading scripture, praying, journaling, or simply sitting quietly and reflecting on His goodness, Those moments with Him will shape your heart and mind in ways you can't even begin to imagine. The more you immerse yourself in His Word and allow it to guide your thoughts and actions, the more you'll feel His presence with you. When you start to prioritize this time, you'll find that your relationship with God will grow in ways you never thought possible. You'll find comfort in His presence, guidance in His Word, and strength in His promises. It won't be long before you start to notice changes in your attitude, your behavior, and your outlook on life. What may have started as a routine will begin to feel like the most natural part of your day, and you'll start to look forward to the time you spend with Him. Once you've made time for God, the next step is to trust in His plan for your life. Now, this might sound easy on the surface, but if we're being honest, trusting God is something that can be challenging at times. When things are going well, it's easy to say we trust God. But when life gets difficult, when things aren't going according to our plans, when we face struggles or uncertainties, that's when trusting God becomes a real test of faith. But here's the truth. Trusting in God's plan is essential for a strong relationship with Him. If you don't trust Him, you won't be able to walk with Him the way He wants you to. Trusting God means letting go of the need to control everything and surrendering your plans to Him. It means believing that He knows what's best for you, even when you can't see it. It means holding on to the promise that His plans for you are good, even when life doesn't seem to make sense. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us to trust in the Lord with all our heart and lean not on our own understanding, and in all our ways acknowledge Him, and He will make our paths straight. When you place your trust in God, you're acknowledging that He is sovereign, that He knows the beginning from the end, and that He is working everything out for your good. This doesn't mean that life will always be easy. Far from it. Trusting in God doesn't mean that everything will go the way you want, or that there won't be hard times. But it does mean that you can have peace knowing that God is in control, that He is with you through every trial, and that He will never leave you. Jeremiah 29:11 tells us, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." Even in difficult seasons, God's plan for you is filled with hope and purpose. Trust is also about surrendering your fears, doubts, and anxieties to God. It's easy to become overwhelmed by the uncertainty of life, but when you choose to trust God, you're choosing to believe that He has it all in His hands. You don't have to have all the answers or have everything figured out. All you need to do is trust Him, even when you don't understand what's happening around you. It's about releasing the weight of worry and finding rest in His promises. When you learn to trust God, you'll find that you can face life's challenges with a peace that surpasses all understanding. As you take the step to trust God more deeply, you'll begin to experience a greater sense of security and peace in your relationship with Him. And as you trust Him, you'll see that He is faithful to fulfill His promises to you. One of the most powerful ways to strengthen your relationship with God is to cultivate a heart of gratitude. It's easy to focus on what we don't have, what we're lacking, or the struggles we face. It's natural for our minds to go to the places where we feel the pain, the disappointment, or the unmet desires. But here's the thing. Gratitude is a game changer when it comes to building a closer relationship with God. The act of choosing to focus on what we've been given rather than what we're missing can radically shift our perspective and draw us closer to God. In every season of life, there's something to be thankful for. It might not always be obvious, and sometimes it might take a little more effort to see, but God is always at work, even in the midst of our struggles. Psalm 104 encourages us to enter His gates with thanksgiving and His courts with praise. gratitude is the key that opens the door to God's presence. When we choose to focus on the blessings we've already received, whether it's the gift of life, the love of family, or the simple fact that we woke up this morning, we invite God's peace and joy into our hearts. This doesn't mean ignoring life's challenges or pretending everything is perfect when it's not. Gratitude doesn't minimize our pain. It shifts our focus to God's goodness in the midst of it. Philippians 4:6 reminds us to do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. When we bring our concerns and burdens to God with a thankful heart, we open the door for Him to work in our lives. Gratitude has a way of softening our hearts, enabling us to see God's hand in the big and small moments. It helps us remember that He is always faithful, always good, and always worthy of our praise, no matter what. So, how do you cultivate this heart of gratitude? Start small. Begin each day by thanking God for at least one thing, no matter how simple it may seem. It could be the beauty of a sunrise, the love of a friend, or the comfort of knowing you're not alone. Keep a gratitude journal and write down things you're thankful for each day. You'll be amazed at how quickly your mindset changes when you intentionally look for God's blessings, even in the most difficult situations. Gratitude doesn't just help you feel closer to God, it transforms your heart, helping you to grow in joy, peace, and faith. As you develop this practice of thankfulness, you'll find that your relationship with God will deepen. You'll begin to recognize His presence in every moment, and your heart will be more open to receiving His love and guidance. Gratitude has a way of softening the soul, reminding us that no matter what we face, God is still good, and He's still working for our good. Now, let's talk about another essential step in strengthening your relationship with God: building community with other believers. We were never meant to walk this journey alone. God created us for relationship, not just with Him, but with one another. That's why the Bible places such a high value on fellowship. In Hebrews 10:24-25, we're reminded not to neglect meeting together, but to encourage one another, especially as the day of Christ's return draws near. When you're walking through life on your own, it's easy to feel isolated and disconnected. But when you surround yourself with a community of believers, you're reminded that you're not alone. You're part of a larger family, a group of people who can support you, pray for you, and encourage you in your faith. Being in community with others doesn't just benefit you, it benefits everyone involved. As you grow together, you learn from each other, share your struggles, and celebrate your victories. There's something incredibly powerful about sharing life with people who understand what it means to walk in faith. They can help you navigate challenges, hold you accountable, and provide wisdom and encouragement when you need it most. And just as much, you can offer the same support and encouragement to them. We all need people who can speak truth into our lives, pray with us, and lift us up when we're weak. Building community also means being vulnerable and open with others. It's easy to hide behind a mask, pretending that everything is fine when it's not. But true community happens when we're willing to share our struggles and our victories, to be real with one another. This kind of honesty fosters deeper relationships and creates a space for growth and healing. When you allow others to see your weaknesses and your pain, you invite them to walk alongside you in a way that can bring true healing and strength. And when you open up and share the ways God has worked in your life, you become a source of encouragement and hope to others. It's important to remember that community doesn't just happen by accident. It takes intentionality. It means showing up, being consistent, and making time for others. Whether it's attending church services, joining a small group, or reaching out to someone who's struggling, community is something we actively build. And as you invest in these relationships, you'll find that your own faith grows stronger. You'll be reminded that God is with you, not just through your personal time with Him, but through the people He has placed in your life to walk with you. The encouragement, prayer, and accountability you receive from others will strengthen your faith and help you stay grounded in your relationship with God. As you develop deeper connections with other believers, you'll realize that your walk with God is not just about you. It's about being part of something bigger, something more beautiful. A family of believers who are committed to growing together, loving each other, and pointing each other back to Christ. Through this community, you'll find the strength, encouragement, and love that helps you stay faithful, even when life is hard. The final step in strengthening your relationship with God is one that's often overlooked, but is incredibly powerful: living out your faith through service. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that a strong relationship with God is about what we can receive from Him: His love, His blessings, His guidance. While these things are incredibly important, a true, vibrant relationship with God is also about what we give. It's about sharing His love with others, living out His truth, and reflecting His heart through our actions. When you choose to serve others in His name, your relationship with God will deepen in ways that words alone can't describe. Jesus Himself set the ultimate example of service. Throughout His life, He demonstrated what it means to love others by putting their needs before His own. He washed His disciples' feet, healed the sick, and served those in need, all while showing them the love and compassion of God. He didn't come to be served, but to serve, and as His followers, we're called to do the same. Service is not just an act, it's a reflection of the heart of God. It's a tangible way we can express our love for Him and for others. In Matthew 25:40, Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." When we serve others, we are serving God Himself. Living out your faith through service transforms your relationship with God in profound ways. First, it allows you to see the world through His eyes. When you step into someone else's life, when you help them in their time of need, you begin to understand the depths of God's love and compassion. You start to see how much He cares about His creation, and that understanding deepens your own love for Him. Serving others brings you closer to God because it reminds you of who He is. He is a servant, a healer, and a restorer. And when you serve, you are walking in His footsteps. Serving also helps you live out the truths you're learning. It's one thing to read about love, grace, and kindness in Scripture, but it's another thing entirely to put it into practice. When you serve, you live out what you believe. You show others the love of Christ, not just with your words, but with your actions. This is where your faith becomes alive. It's not just about believing the right things. It's about showing that belief through your life. When you serve others, you become the hands and feet of Jesus, bringing His hope and healing to the world around you. And here's something powerful about serving that you might not expect. It's not just the people you serve who are impacted. Service has a way of changing you too. The more you serve, the more you begin to realize that it's not about you. It's about God's glory. When you serve others selflessly, you experience the joy and fulfillment that comes from living according to God's will. You become less focused on your own desires and more attuned to His purposes for your life. Serving others humbles you, challenges you, and stretches you in ways that nothing else can. But service doesn't always have to be grand or dramatic. It doesn't mean you need to go overseas on a mission trip or do something extraordinary to make an impact. Service can be found in the everyday moments of life. It can be as simple as offering a listening ear to someone who's struggling, volunteering at your church, helping a neighbor with groceries, or being kind to a stranger. The opportunities to serve are all around you. Sometimes they're right in front of you. When you take the time to look for ways to help others, you'll find that serving God becomes a natural part of your daily routine. Living out your faith through service also brings you into deeper communion with God. When you serve others, you are essentially partnering with God in His work on earth. He doesn't need us to do His work, but He invites us to join Him in it. Through serving, we experience the joy of being used by God to impact lives and bring His kingdom to the world. As you serve, you'll find that your connection to God becomes even more intimate, because you begin to see Him working through you, and that's a beautiful thing. So, look for ways to serve today. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be genuine. When you serve others, you are honoring God and reflecting His love to the world. And in the process, you'll discover that the more you pour out, the more God fills you up. Your relationship with Him will deepen, your faith will grow, and you'll be living out the true calling He has for your life. As we reflect on these 5 steps, prioritizing time with God, trusting His plan, cultivating a heart of gratitude, building community, and living out our faith through service, remember this: strengthening your relationship with God is a journey, not a destination. It's a process that takes time, commitment, and intentionality. But as you take each of these steps, you'll find that your relationship with God grows stronger, your faith deepens, and your life becomes more aligned with His purposes. Keep pressing forward, keep seeking Him, and watch as He transforms your heart and life. You'll discover that the closer you draw to Him, the more you'll experience His love, peace, and purpose in ways you never thought possible. As we come to the end of this journey, I want to leave you with one last thought. Strengthening your relationship with God is not something that happens overnight. It's a lifelong process, one that requires patience, perseverance, and trust. The steps we've talked about: prioritizing time with God, trusting His plan, cultivating a heart of gratitude, building community with other believers, and living out your faith through service, are not just things you check off a list. They are daily commitments, choices you make each day to draw closer to God, to put Him first, and to align your life with His will. But here's the beautiful part. Even though we might not always see the immediate fruits of our efforts, God sees our hearts, and He's faithful to honor our desire to grow closer to Him. When you take the time to invest in these steps, even if you don't always feel like it, you are building a strong foundation that will bear fruit in the future. Every moment spent in God's presence, every act of trust, every expression of gratitude, and every time you serve others is an opportunity for God to shape and mold you into the person He's calling you to be. I want to encourage you to take action today. If you've been feeling distant or disconnected from God, know that you don't have to stay in that place. It's never too late to start again. Maybe today is the day you decide to spend a few extra minutes in prayer or dive into the scriptures with a renewed heart. Maybe it's the day you choose to trust God more deeply, even in the midst of uncertainty. Perhaps it's the day you begin to look for opportunities to serve others, to be the hands and feet of Jesus in your community. Whatever it is, start somewhere. Take that first step and trust that God will meet you right where you are. Strengthening your relationship with God isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about making the choice every day to seek Him, to trust Him, and to live for Him. The beauty of our faith is that God doesn't require us to have it all together. He simply asks us to draw near to Him, and He will draw near to us. So take heart, knowing that as you take these steps, you are not walking this path alone. God is with you every step of the way, and He is more than able to strengthen your relationship with Him, no matter where you start. You may not always feel like you're making progress, and that's okay. The key is to keep moving forward. God honors your faithfulness, and He will meet you in your pursuit of Him. As you continue on this journey, you will find that your relationship with God becomes richer, deeper, and more life-changing than you ever thought possible. So keep seeking, keep trusting, and keep serving. God is waiting, and He is ready to transform your life as you draw closer to Him.